Warning, Dazz Radio is not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. 1K Frequency is not intended to replace professional advice, and our views may not necessarily reflect those views of our featured guests.
Great to have you here with us. Welcome to 1K Frequency with your hosts, Dazzo, Skittlekicks, and Atlas. How y'all doing? Welcome to 1K Frequency with your hosts, Dazzo and Skittlekicks. In today's story, we've got X-Men 1997 controversies. Find out what we think in a moment.
Breaking all the frequencies on Dazz Radio.
What's going on? What's up, Dazzo? How you doing, buddy?
Not too much. How are you, good sir?
Good, good. For those that are unaware, Atlas cannot join us tonight. He's busy with real-life stuff, so it's just going to be your boys, Dazzo and Skittlekicks, talking. So as we mentioned at the top of the show, we have a really interesting topic, which is all about the new X-Men series that is on Disney+. And this is a continuation of the original 90s X-Men that was really popular on Fox Kids. I don't know how it played in Canada because I don't know if you guys had Fox Kids. But the thing about this new series is there's been some interesting changes. And one of them was on a character called Morph. Now, for those that are unaware, when the TV series came out, there were already kind of established characters that everybody has kind of known about, like, you know, Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Xavier, Jubilee, Beast, and so on. Morph was never in the comic books. He was specifically created for the X-Men cartoon series, for which I don't really know because there is not really a backstory for him. There's no lore for him. He was just kind of there, which, to be honest, was kind of a shocker, but hey, whatever. Back then in the 90s, I didn't really watch the show. I could not care less about it. I wasn't really into it because I didn't like the animation at the time. But my fiance showed me the episodes, The Cure and A Rogue's Tale, and I fell in love with the show, fell in love with it completely, was like, okay, I started my journey and watching all the episodes. Now, this is supposed to continue with the 97 X-Men, which is taking basically right after, I don't know how many months or years is supposed to be between the last episode and the first episode. I should point out that there are 2 episodes available on Disney Plus that you can go check out. And what they did with Morph is kind of absurd. They now call him non-binary. Why? Well,
no.
He's a shapeshifter, and he's like Mystique. He can basically morph into a female or a male type of character, which is fine because that's what he always did in the original. That's not the problem. The problem is the term non-binary, which was essentially made up in like the last few years. And this never existed in the 90s. This word never existed. The issue is that the people that have come out and said, hey, this is not canon, meaning why is Morph being kind of renamed? And not only that, but redrawn. If you watch the original 90s variant of the X-Men, you'll notice that he looks very human-esque. He's got dark hair. He's got, he looks like a man, right? He looks like a dude. And he kind of disappears in the first, 2 episodes, I think. He basically gets, they think he got killed. And then eventually he gets captured by Mr. Sinister, and then he's turned into some kind of crazy psychotic and is out for revenge. The new version is after his healing, I suppose you could say, because he was healed later in the series, but he kind of left the group, and now he's back. The problem that the fans have is the fact that they changed him too much. He looks more like an alien now, versus what he did in the original. We never saw this in the original. Like, he was never this alien-looking thing. Like, he had like a grayish white toned skin. He has no pupils, really no eyes except the corneas. Like, it's just nothing. Is like a no descriptive face whatsoever. And a lot of people are kind of upset about this, right? And when you have a group of people that come out that either worked on the show or are fans of the show and the new show, they're saying, well, who cares? Just who cares? It's just a non-binary thing, and that's just how it is, and then both the people that were part of the original series are commenting like, well, this is how it was back in the days. We wouldn't have the term non-binary, but that's kind of what he was back then, because he could shapeshift into males or females. It's like, well, he was non-binary. It's like, well, actually that is a binary because it's either one or the other. So how is it non? But the fact is that it gets even more darker than that, because then you hear the intolerance. And it's not the intolerance of those that are criticizing the character and how it's not really canon anymore. It's now that you cannot have a different opinion than what they say it is. So in other words, if you argue that he should not be known as a non-binary character, you are completely crucified for this. And you're the one that's called the hater. You're the one that's called the bigot. You're the one that's called, the most terrible person on the planet. And this comes from the people that worked on the show. One of them in particular, I just couldn't believe even said this. But I'm not naming names, but you can look up the articles out there because it does talk about who these folks are. But one of them said, "Did we teach you nothing? Did you not watch the show?" And blah, 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 right? And
the co-creators said that?
No, they weren't co-creators. They were writers. They were writers on the original show. The writers, okay. And then one of the directors. The original directors, who are now consultants. And I was like, okay, do you not understand your hypocrisy? You, back in the 90s, were telling, basically explaining what the mutants were, because people who've known about the X-Men basically for, 5 decades now? Yeah. It's like the 60s, basically, so that's like 5 decades ago. Actually, almost 6 decades ago. It was talking about the bigotry. It was talking about the racism. It was talking about all this stuff, because at the time the X-Men came out, what was going on in the world? A lot of civil unrest, right? This came out during the height of the issues overseas with wars, but also at home domestically with the, man's inhumanity to man, right? Yep. With the black community and all of that, right? And that was yep. horrible. So when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created this, they're like, hey, we want to talk about this, and we want to use the mutants as the way to tell the stories. And I thought that's brilliant. As I've gotten older, I really understand what they were trying to get to. But this is so fucking political now. It was yep. sort of political back then, but because they had to choose the word non-binary, and that's a very political thing. And I hate cussing, but I fucking hate how they did this, because it's like you only chose that word because it'll piss people off, it'll get you clicks, and it will make sure that your sorry asses don't get canceled. That's the whole thing. Yep. I'm so freaking tired of the lunatics running the asylum. And that's what this is. So they preached, tolerance back in the 90s, and even back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and all the comics subsequently after that. But it's only now that it has to be like, oh, we got to make this political. We got to say this. And, I think that I'm not sure if it was a character designer or who it was that kind of took this way. I can't remember. I think it was one of the artists. I'm thinking, dude, why? Why would you do this? So they preach intolerance, and yet they are the ones that are intolerant of anybody that criticizes their work. It's like, how dare you talk about us like this? How dare you say this is not good? How dare you say anything about this? Because my feelings and my non-binary issues and all this other bullshit. that they just cram down everybody's fucking throat, literally at gunpoint now. And it's absolutely, and this is a fucking cartoon. And it's something that was
It's a cartoon, for fuck's sake.
Exactly. And not only that, it's not just a cartoon, but it's also one that is so beloved. I mean, it's got movies. It's got, I mean, it's never been, it's like the Transformers. It's like never been out of the lexicon. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's forever sealed in our brains. And it was, you know, I love it. I never read the comics, but I watched the cartoon and I'm like, okay, I get why this worked. But now it's all about intolerance from that side. It's like we are not allowed to say anything that's negative. We can't say like we don't like this, we don't like that, because we'll be called bigots, we'll be called haters, blah, blah, blah. And I find it ironic that you ever heard of, there's a certain group of people inside of the X-Men universe. They're called the Friends of Humanity, right?
Yep.
Think about what that's kind of based on. What part of history had a quote-unquote Friends of Humanity? Like, we're trying to do good. We're trying to cleanse of this evil atrocity, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you guess the Crooked Cross group, you would be correct. And I chuckle because the irony is these people literally are just like the Friends of Humanity. If you have any disagreements whatsoever with them, they are the Friends of Humanity. They will cancel you. They will dox you. They will do anything to destroy your life, either online or in the real world. They would love to see you completely departed from your meat suit, 6 feet under, and then they'd piss on your grave, light on fire, and then take a shit on it on top of that, just to add more salt to that wound. And that's absolutely what we're seeing now. Goes into the criticisms of Gambit. Now, Gambit is a character I really like. You know, one, he gets a hot girl, name's Rogue. You know, hello. He'd been chasing her forever and a day. She always kind of played hard to get, but deep down she loved him. She wanted him. He wanted her forever, so it was cool, right? So, again, this is really kind of silly because it came down to the criticisms of what he wore, okay?
Oh, yeah, I saw.
You saw the picture, right? So Gambit was decidedly put into a crop top, right? But not just any crop top. It's a crop top that Rogue owned, or that Rogue owns. So he's borrowing her clothes. All right. What the fuck? Why? Like, first of all, okay, they're like, but it was a thing in the 90s. It was a thing in the 80s. Yeah, it was fucking dumb back then as it is now. That was a shit fashion. I remember seeing on MTV all the glam bands had the fucking crop top as part of their outfits. It was fucking tacky. It was fucking tacky back then, and it's even fucking tackier now because it's not relevant. But yet they did it anyway.
1 second.
Yeah.
I can see fucking Nautilus wearing a crop top.
I know, right? I thought that as you were mouthing the words, and I'm like, oh my God, you're not wrong. Yeah. Him and his long hair.
Sorry,
playing guitar with his crop top and trying to impress Nova. You know, I'm just saying. Yeah, he's gonna freaking. We're gonna leave this in and we're gonna let him rant. So
I'm sorry, buddy.
He gonna be pissed. But again, it's the same thing. Now, how I learned about the Gambit fashion criticism is because I was one who actually watched it. I'm like, what the fuck did they do to you, Gambit? What did they do to you, dude? And it's like, I mean. My fiance was kind of giggling because she could see how bad it was too, and she's like, "Yeah, that doesn't look right." And look, I don't give a fuck honestly, but it's just because of why it's been done, and I think it's been done as a fuck you to anybody who disagrees. And it goes back to, again, there was backlash. A guy got really pissed about this, and then I read the comments. And this is on Facebook. I read the comments, and every one of these fuckers was like, "Well, this guy's an idiot. This guy's an idiot. Oh, Gambit looks so hot. Oh, he's bi. Oh, yeah, we got to have that in there because, you know, oh, my 2024 feelings, you know." And it's like, are you fucking crazy? So it's okay for you to have the opinion. that Gambit looks
But-
fine in a crop top. His girlfriend's crop top. Yeah, hold on. And yet, I can't have an opinion that's contrary to that? No, I can't. What's up?
But yeah. I don't
Words.
know where where on earth. Anyways, carry on.
No, I know what you were I know you were kind of going with that, and I'm like, oh, that could be interesting. But because I mean, yes, this is one of the stupidest arguments out there. Look, if somebody looks like dog shit with their fashion, you're just going to say something about it. I mean, I'm sorry, this is how we are. Yeah, we are very shallow human fucking beings. We're fucking hairless fucking apes that have me attitudes, right? We pound our chest and we try to exert our thing. But again, it comes back to intolerance. And that is today's theme. Say it with me, folks. Intolerance. Say the secret word, and everybody will scream. And so
Intolerance.
Ah! And it's just absolutely ridiculous. I'll give you another example before we wrap up this segment. One of my favorite bands for the longest time was Iron Maiden. And I had seen this in I don't remember what it was. It was something I was watching about, I think it was actually an Iron Maiden documentary. And I think it was done by Razor Fist or the Rageaholic. And he was showing this one video clip where a fan had brought in a banner that said, "Play the classics." And Bruce Dickinson wasn't having that. No. Because they were on tour promoting Book of Souls, which was this massive double album. And it was like, that was all their shows were, for the entire tour was all about Book of Souls. The fans' banner somehow got into the hands of Bruce, and he literally tore it up right in front of the audience. The fans screamed and clamored for that. They were like, "Oh my God, yes, Bruce, yes, do that thing, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And completely missing the message of why most likely that person was saying play the classics. It was because the new music sucked. They didn't dig it. And the first 20 years of Iron Maiden are some of the best in fucking metal history, some of the best music out there. And the last 24 years have sucked, in my opinion. I mean, I would say up to Brave New World, which was their 2000 release. Everything prior to that was fucking brilliant. Everything after that has been garbage. It's been the same repeated mediocrity ever since. The fact that he ripped up that poster in front of the audience was cheering for this, and the reaction on his face was like, "Yeah, fuck you. I'm Bruce Dickinson. I don't give a fuck about you. I don't care that you paid for a high-quality seat. You know, I'm the singer of this band. We are fucking Iron Maiden. We're legends. Fuck you." Right? I mean, that's what literally has made me rethink why I was ever a fan of that band, was because of that. And it just, again, shows that there's zero tolerance for anybody who's got an objectionable opinion. The guy wasn't doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Just held up a sign that said, "Look, play the classics. I like the classics," okay? And doing that was the biggest middle finger, in my opinion. I'm like, why would you do this? So, in closing, this whole thing about intolerance just reeks so badly. It's absolutely dog shit. I cannot believe that this is where we're at now. And it's only getting worse. When you let the lunatics run the asylum, and then they burn that asylum to the ground, and then expect you, the peon, to rebuild it for them so they can, again destroy it, I have a real problem with that. If we literally shut down everybody's other opinions, what kind of a society do we have? And I'm reminded of something that happened just about, I think around 2,000 years ago. A man walked the earth and was beloved by so many. He was then chastised by his own people and brought before a governor who asked who should be free. Barabbas or Jesus? Guess who the audience picked? Barabbas, the murderer. They crucified their own. And
wow.
I know. And if you don't know that story, it's very much told in the New Testament. My point is that the people that are doing this bullshit backlash for anybody who criticizes them are the same people that would have crucified Jesus and would have freed a murderer. Funny enough, we kind of do that every fucking day, don't we? We kind of do that every day. We release the criminals and we punish the good. How is that not pot calling kettle black? So anyway, that's just my point I wanted to talk about with the 97 controversy, X-Men 97 controversies. Like I said, it's just bullshit. And I was trying to draw these analogies for you folks so you can get a clear picture of the sickness that is out there right now. Make your own decision. Watch the show and let us know what you think. We hope that you enjoyed the maiden voyage of 1K Frequency with your hosts Dazzo and Atlas and myself, Skittlecakes. If you have any thoughts or topic ideas or feedback for the show, you can drop us a line at dazradio@hotmail.com. So until next time, don't get canceled.